Henry Wallace Reeves. 38 years old, but he carries 60 in his stooped shoulders and the limp that drags his left leg like an anchor. His hands, calloused, stained with the amber residue of 1,000 harvests, are the hands of a man who has coaxed life from the earth, only to watch it wither. His face, weathered oak, eyes like deep wells of quiet defiance, framed by a beard that's more salt than pepper. He wears overalls patched at the knees, a flannel shirt rolled to the elbows, and a wide-brim hat that shades him from the sun he no longer chases. Henry pauses at the threshold of his barn, inhaling the mingled scents, the sharp tang of fresh-cut hay, the earthy musk of turned soil, and beneath it all, the warm, cloying sweetness of honey. It's a smell that clings to him like a second skin, one that his neighbors in Eldora have long since turned into a punchline. The bee man, they call him, with a chuckle that hides the edge of pity. Too old for the draft at 38, too crippled from that tractor mishap 3 summers back, when the belt snapped and pinned his leg under a half-ton of iron, to even volunteer. The war has requisitioned everything else. Sons, fuel, even the spare tires from his old Ford. But not Henry. Not his bees. He limps inside, the barn's shadows swallowing him whole. Wooden frames line the walls, each a hive humming with purpose. Thousands of bees dance in the filtered light, their bodies a blur of gold and black. Henry moves among them with the reverence of a priest in his cathedral, his gloved hands gentle as he lifts a frame dripping with comb. Wax crumbles softly under his touch, releasing that golden nectar into a tin bucket below. Drip. Drip. The sound is meditative, a counterpoint to the chaos he imagines across the Atlantic. It's been 2 years since Pearl Harbor shattered the illusion of isolation. Eldora rallied then, victory gardens sprouting in backyards, ration books clutched like talismans, and the weekly town hall meetings where Mayor Heartland droned on about scrap metal drives. Henry had shown up to the first one, his limp echoing on the wooden floorboards, offering his honey as a field ration. Natural energy, he'd said, voice steady but low, keeps a man going without the crash. The room had tittered. Honey for heroes, Henry, save it for your tea parties. Old Mr. Aboa Gustafson had barked from the back, sparking laughter that rippled like a stone in a pond. Henry had stood there, bucket in hand, the sweetness suddenly sour in his throat. He left early, the screen door slamming behind him like a judgment. Now, in the barn's dim sanctuary, he works alone. The radio crackles on a shelf, tuned low to the BBC's midnight broadcast, filtered through static like a voice from the grave. Allied forces prepare for the Great Push. D-Day imminent. Casualties mounting in Italy. Henry doesn't flinch. He can't. His brother Paul is over there somewhere, hauling trucks through the mud of Anzio, dodging shells that scream like banshees. Letters come sporadic, scrawled in pencil on onion skin paper. Miss the quiet here, Hank. Your bees would go mad with all this racket. Tell Ma I'm fine, but Ma's been gone 2 years now, Martha, taken by the pneumonia that swept through after the 41 harvest. Her absence is a quieter war, one fought in the empty chair at the kitchen table, the unopened recipe book on the shelf. Henry sets the bucket down, wiping his brow with a rag that smells of linseed oil and regret. He sinks onto a stool by his workbench, the wood groaning under him. Around him, the hives pulse with life. Bees building, storing, surviving. He watches them, mesmerized by their precision. No waste, no hesitation, each cell a fortress of purpose. Nature never wastes effort, he thinks, the words a mantra from Martha's old letters, tucked in a cigar box under his bed. She'd written them during their courtship when he was just a hired hand on her father's farm, dreaming of hives of his own. You see the world in combs and queens, Henry. It's a gift. Don't let the loud ones drown it out. But the world is loud now. Warplanes drone overhead weekly, practicing low-altitude runs over the fields, silver specks against the blue, their engines a thunder that scatters the bees into frantic swarms. Henry covers the hives with tarps, whispering apologies to the air. Last week, the army rolled into Eldora in olive-drab jeeps, requisitioning every able-bodied man for training depots. Young Tommy Ellis, barely 18, saluted his ma goodbye from the town square. Henry watched from the porch, gripping the railing until his knuckles whitened. You staying put, B-man? The sergeant had called, smirking as he lit a lucky strike. Figured you'd be buzzing off to fight. The men laughed, piling into trucks that belched exhaust like dragon's breath. Henry hadn't answered. What was there to say? He was the lame duck in a pond of eagles, his contribution reduced to jars of honey sent to the Red Cross for morale boosts. Uselessness gnaws at him like rust on his tools. Nights, when the crickets chorus outside his window, he lies awake, staring at the ceiling beams, tracing the knots like maps to nowhere. What good is a beekeeper in a bullet's world? The question loops, relentless. He's patched his overalls with wax scraps, traded honey for flour at the co-op, even melted down old combs to waterproof the barn roof. Small acts, invisible mends. But the war demands spectacle. Tanks that roar, bombs that bloom like metal flowers. Henry's world is one of whispers, the soft landing of a bee on a petal, the slow ooze of honey from a broken cell. He wonders if Martha would have seen purpose in it. Her last letter, written from her sickbed, had been simple: keep building, love. The world needs its quiet corners. A knock echoes through the barn, sharp, insistent. Henry startles, knocking over a jar of propolis tincture. Amber liquid spreads across the floor like spilled blood. He limps to the door, peering out into the dusk. It's Widow Hargrove from down the road, her face pinched under a kerchief, holding a ration slip. Henry Reeves? Army's calling for more of your sweet stuff. For the boys' throats, they say. Coughs in the trenches. She thrusts the paper at him, eyes flicking to the hives with poorly veiled disdain. Don't know why they bother. Tastes like regret. He takes the slip, folding it into his pocket without a word. As she turns away, her footsteps crunching gravel, Henry feels the weight settle deeper. Pride flickers, his honey, feeding fighters halfway around the world. Then frustration douses it. Farmers don't win wars, Mayor Heartland had said at the last meeting, clapping a hand on the shoulder of a shipyard welder visiting from Des Moines. The room had nodded, eyes sliding past Henry like he was part of the furniture. He closes the door, leaning against it, the wood cool against his back. The bees hum on, oblivious. That night, after the stars prick the velvet sky, Henry works late by lantern light. He repairs an old axle from the tractor, the one that crippled him, its bearings squealing like a soul in torment. He reaches for the linseed oil, then pauses. On the bench sits a crock of fresh honey, beeswax shavings beside it. An absurd notion bubbles up, born of desperation and half-remembered recipes from Martha's book. What if? He mixes a dollop of honey with wax and oil, the concoction thick and golden, like liquid sunlight. Dipping a rag, he applies it to the axle, working it into the grooves. The squeal fades, not gone but muffled, softer, almost silent. He turns the crank by hand. The motion is smooth, the sound a mere sigh. Henry freezes, lantern flame dancing shadows across his face. Bees make silence, he thinks, the words etching themselves into his notebook with a stub of pencil. It's a footnote, a scribble in the margin of his uselessness. He caps the jar, labeling it compound number 1 with a steady hand. Outside, the wind carries the faint drone of a plane, high and far. War's machinery grinding ever closer. But in this barn, amid the hum of wings and the drip of sweetness, Henry Reeves finds a fragile thread of purpose. He is no soldier, no inventor by trade, just a man with bees and a limp, stirring shadows into something new. The world rages on, demanding blood and thunder. Here, in the heart of Iowa, he stirs gently, unaware that his whisper is about to cross oceans. As the lantern gutters low, Henry extinguishes it with a breath. Darkness folds in, broken only by the soft pulse of the hives. Bees don't fight, he thinks, extinguishing the flame of doubt for one quiet moment. They build. The lantern's wick sputters, a final gasp before Henry blows it out, leaving the barn to the mercy of moonlight slanting through cracked boards. Outside, the Iowa night wraps the farm in a blanket of cricket song and rustling leaves. But inside, the air hangs thick with the residue of his experiment. Honey's golden viscosity mingling with linseed oil's sharp bite, and wax's faint, waxy bloom like a candle's memory. Henry stands motionless by the workbench, the axle in his hands still warm from friction, its silence ringing in his ears louder than any roar. He turns it once more, slowly, deliberately. No squeal, no grind, just the whisper of metal on metal, subdued, as if the iron itself has been lulled to sleep. What in God's name? The thought coils in his chest, equal parts wonder and wariness. He's no chemist, no tinkerer with degrees from Ames or Chicago. Just a beekeeper who knows the stubborn poetry of nature, how bees seal cracks with propolis, how honey preserves what time would rot. But this is different. It's not mending, it's muting. He sets the axle down, fingers lingering on its surface, sticky with the residue of compound No. 1. The stuff gleams faintly in the dark, a promise or a prank. He wipes his hands on his rag, but the scent clings, sweet, insistent, a ghost of Martha's kitchen on baking days. Sleep evades him that night. In the farmhouse, a squat two-story affair with gingerbread trim peeling like old lace, Henry paces the creaking floors. The bedroom window frames the barn's silhouette, a hulking sentinel against the stars. He pulls Martha's letters from the cigar box, yellowed envelopes tied with twine, her script looping like vines. One from 39, when the hives first thrived. Dearest Hank, your bees are miracles in miniature. They turn flowers to gold, silence to song. Don't doubt the small works, they honeycomb the world. He folds it away, the paper crackling softly. Small works. His axle repair is that, small, foolish even. Yet it nags at him, a bee trapped under glass. Dawn breaks gray and reluctant, the kind of May morning where mist clings to the fields like a shroud. Henry is back in the barn before the coffee's cold, sleeves rolled, apron tied. The hives greet him with their dawn chorus, a low, harmonious buzz that vibrates through the floorboards. He tends them first, as ritual demands, smoking the frames to calm the frenzy, harvesting combs heavy with nectar. Drip by golden drip, it fills the crocks. But his eyes stray to the workbench, where the axle lies like an accusation. He heats the linseed oil in a double boiler scavenged from Martha's pots, the flame dancing blue under the iron. Into it he stirs more honey. Raw, unfiltered, straight from the super, and shavings of beeswax grated fine as snow. The mixture thickens, reluctant at first, then yielding into a paste the color of aged bourbon, smooth as cream. He tests it on everything that dares to complain. The hinges on the barn door, groaning like old bones. The pump handle at the well, rattling with each draw. Even the spokes on his bicycle, left idle since the leg gave out. Each application brings the same hush, a velvet glove over clamor. The door swings without protest. The pump whispers water into the bucket, the wheels spin silent as secrets. By noon sweat beads his brow, the air heavy with the alchemy of it all. Beeswax blooming warm, honey's tang cutting the oil's edge. He labels jars. Number 2, more wax, less drip. Number 3, thicker, for gears, stacking them on a shelf like talismans. Nature never wastes effort, he mutters, echoing Martha, but now it feels like prophecy. Word of the army's honey requisition has spread through Eldora like pollen on the wind. By afternoon, a battered Chevy rumbles up the drive, kicking dust that settles on the hives like ash. Out steps Corporal Ellis, Tommy's uncle, deferred for flat feet, clipboard in hand, helmet tucked under his arm like an afterthought. Reeves? Got orders for 50 gallons. Rations and med kits. Boys need something sweet over there. His voice is gruff, but his eyes soften at the sight of the jars glinting on the porch. Henry nods, limping to the shed where the barrels wait, set sealed with paraffin. As he rolls one forward, the corporal pauses, sniffing the air. What's that smell? Like church candles and pie. Henry hesitates, the barrel thudding to a stop. Impulse wars with caution, the ridicule still fresh from town hall. But something in Ellis's face, the faint tremor in his jaw at mention of Tommy shipped east, loosens his tongue. Try this, he says, scooping a dab of compound number 3 onto a rag. He applies it to the Chevy's door latch, which has been squeaking since the war started, a metallic whine that sets teeth on edge. Ellis watches, skeptical, then tugs the handle. Open. Close. Nothing but a soft click. His eyebrows climb. Well, I'll be. Quieter than a nun's habit. What's in it? Honey, wax, a bit of oil. Henry's voice is steady, but his pulse quickens. Keeps things hushed. Ellis rubs the residue between fingers, thoughtful. Hushed, huh? Over there's all noise. Tanks growling, Jerry's listening for every cough. Could use some of that. He straightens, clipping a note to his board. Load the honey, but send a crate of this stuff too. Depot in Des Moines. Tell him it's for testing. Corporal Ellis's say-so. The Chevy groans away under its load. Barrels lashed in the bed, the crate of compounds nestled atop like contraband. Henry watches until the dust settles, a hollow ache in his chest. What have I done? Sent bees, breath to war, that's what. He turns back to the barn. The hives hum a balm. The rest of the day blurs in refinement, straining impurities through cheesecloth, testing ratios by ear. No 4 sets too hard, cracking like ice. Number 5 flows like water, too thin to hold. By dusk, number 6 sings, a perfect balance, absorbing sound like a sponge drinks spill. He coats the tractor's pedals, the ones that betrayed him years back, and pedals in place. Silence, pure, profound. The kind that amplifies the heartbeat. That evening, as thunder grumbles distant over the plains, Henry sits at the kitchen table with a bowl of corn mush and a jar of number 6. The radio murmurs updates. Rommel fortifies the Atlantic Wall. Invasion fleets mass in English ports. He dips a spoon into the compound, tasting it absently, sweet, bitter, earthy. Not poison, but no nectar either. For machines, not men, he thinks, chuckling softly at the absurdity. A knock interrupts. Widow Hargrove again, this time with news from town. Heard Ellis took your bee slop with the honey. Folks at the co-op say you're peddling fairy dust now. Her laugh is sharp, but her eyes hold a flicker of curiosity. Think it'll stick to tanks? Might, Henry replies, spoon paused midair. If tanks need quiet. She shakes her head, muttering about wasted effort, but lingers a moment, watching him work the stuff into a squeaky chair rung by the door. The wine dies. She tugs the chair, tests it. Nothing. Like magic. Then she's gone into the rain that begins to patter on the tin roof. Alone again, Henry writes in his notebook by the oil lamp's glow. No 6. Holds sound like a hive holds winter. Bees don't shout, they seal. The words blur as fatigue pulls at him, but sleep comes fitful. Dreams laced with the drone of unseen engines, soft at first, then swelling to a roar that shakes the world. He wakes before dawn, slick with sweat, the thunder a low growl outside. The barn calls. He mixes a final batch larger, sealing it in tins stamped with his mark. Reeves compound, for the quiet work. Days bleed into a week. Letters arrive. Paul's, postmarked Italy. Hank, mud here's thicker than your honey. Trucks break down constant, engines screaming like pigs. Wish you were here with your fixes. Ma would say keep sweet. Love, Paul. Henry folds it away, the ache sharpening. Then, the telegram from Des Moines. Clipped and curt. Compound received. Initial tests promising. Request additional crates. Dorsey ordnance. No explanation. No praise. Just need. He packs them that afternoon. 20 tins, wrapped in straw, crated like eggs. The next truck through Eldora carries them east, toward the railheads and the ships. Henry stands at the gate, hat in hand, watching the taillights fade into the haze. The rain has stopped, leaving the air washed clean, scented with wet earth and ozone. Bees murmur from the hives, a counterpoint to the silence he's bottled and sent away. Doubt creeps in. What if it's just grease? What if they laugh? But he pushes it down, clinging to the axle's hush, the chair's sigh. In the barn that night, he coats the last squeaky thing, the floorboard by Martha's old rocker, the one that betrayed footsteps in the dark. It stills under his touch. He sinks into the chair, the wood cradling him like memory. The world outside hums with war's machinery, planes stitching the sky, radios crackling with urgency. But here, in this pocket of Iowa, Henry Reeves has forged something new from the ordinary, a balm for noise, drawn from the heart of the hive. He just built silence, and didn't know it yet. The crates rumble eastward on a freight car bound for the Des Moines depot, their contents jostling like secrets in a confessional. It's late June 1944 now, the Iowa air thick with the scent of blooming alfalfa and the metallic tang of distant rail yards. Henry stands at the farm's edge, one hand shading his eyes against the noon sun, watching the train's plume of steam dissolve into the horizon. The hives behind him buzz with midday fervor, a golden haze of workers ferrying pollen from field to frame. He wonders, idly, if the bees sense the shift, the way his compound, born of their labor, hurtles toward a world of mud and muzzle flash. Quiet corners, Martha's voice whispers in his mind, even in the storm. Back in the barn, production becomes ritual. Dawn to dusk, Henry stirs batches in his double boiler, the mixture evolving like a living thing. Nova 7, with a touch more propolis for adhesion. Number 8, thin for easy application on exhaust manifolds. The air grows saturated, a heady brew of wax's mellow smoke and honey's defiant sweetness, undercut by oil's reluctant bite. His hands, once gentle extractors, now bear the scars of haste, blisters from the heat, calluses etched deeper. He ships what he can, tins crated weekly, labeled plainly as lubricant. Reeves Farm, no fanfare. The telegrams from Latimer Dorsey arrive terse, efficient. Batch 7 viable. Accelerate output. Secure channel. No questions, no thanks, just the pull of need, like gravity on a falling leaf. 600 miles east, in a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of Camp Dodge, Lieutenant Robert Dorsey unpacks the latest crate under the glare of bare bulbs. He's 26, fresh from MIT's engineering halls, his uniform crisp but his eyes shadowed by the weight of deadlines. The invasion, Overlord, looms like a thunderhead, every gear and gasket scrutinized for the push across the channel. Dorsey's team, a dozen men in grease-smeared fatigues, poring over blueprints for deuce-and-a-half trucks, the workhorses slated for Normandy's bocage. Noise is the enemy here too. Not just the whine of V1 buzz bombs, but the giveaway growl of engines creeping through enemy lines. Sound discipline, the brass calls it, but it's a joke. Unmodified Fords belch like dragons in the night. The crate yields its treasures, tins gleaming amber, sealed with wax plugs. Dorsey prees one open, the scent wafting up, bees and earth, an Iowa ghost in this concrete tomb. "What in blazes is this?" he mutters, dipping a finger and rubbing it between thumb and forearm. Sticky, resilient. His sergeant, a grizzled Korean vet named Hale, snorts from across the bench. "Heard it's from some hayseed beekeeper. Ellis slipped it in with ration honey. Thinks it'll quiet the fleet." Laughter ripples through the crew, tools clattering. Bee spit for battles? Pass the Lucky Charms. But Dorsey, ever the empiricist, silences them with a raised hand. Logistics says test it, all of it. They do, coating axles on a idling GMC, slathering manifolds on a Jeep's belly. The warehouse echoes with the usual cacophony, drills whining, rivet guns popping, until the first engine turns over. Not a purr exactly, but muffled, subdued. The decibel meter jury-rigged from radio parts dips 5 points, 10 on the second coat. Dorsey's brow furrows, pencil-scratching notes. Run it blind, through the woods. They do, Dorsey at the wheel, Hale riding shotgun with a stopwatch. The truck noses into the mock hedgerow course, a tangle of barbed wire and saplings simulating French lanes. From the observation post, 200 yards out, the sound fades to a hum, indistinguishable from wind in the leaves. Word spreads quietly, through back channels and coded memos. By mid-July, samples shipped to England, aboard the Queen Mary, crammed in holds with mustard gas detectors and D-Day dummies. Corporal Ellen Price, a logistics whiz from the Quartermaster Corps, sharp-eyed 24, with ink-stained fingers from Yale's typing pools, stumbles on the tins in a Southampton warehouse. She's sorting convoy kits, ammo crates, K-rations, the endless detritus of invasion. The label catches her. Reeves Compound, number 9, stealth variant. Stealth, she echoes to her aide, a lanky private named Kowalski. From Iowa? What's next? Cornmeal camouflage? But curiosity bites. She requisitions a Jeep, drives it fog-bound lanes at dusk. The engine's growl softens to a bee's murmur lost in the mist. Her report, typed in triplicate, reduces audible range by 70%. Ideal for night resupply. Recommend full deployment. Back in Eldora, the world hasn't shifted. July's heat waves the fields, turning corn to brittle whispers, and the town square buzzes with its own invasions. War bond drives, V-mail collections, the occasional USO show with girls in sequins singing Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. Henry limps to the co-op for flour, his latest crate loaded on the morning truck, when the whispers hit like hornets. Old Gustafson at the counter, pipe clenched in yellowed teeth. "Heard you're shipping bee dung to the generals now, Reeves. Think it'll sweeten the sauerkraut?" Chuckles from the farmers clustered by the seed bins, pitchforks leaning like accusations. Mayor Harlan joins in, wiping sweat from his jowls. "Henry, stick to jars for the ladies' auxiliary. War's no place for delusions." Henry's face burns, the limp suddenly heavier as he pays for his sack. "It's just grease," he mutters, but the words stick in his throat like comb. Outside, Widow Hargrove corners him by the pump, her basket heavy with turnips. "Don't mind him, Henry, but talk like that. Compound for quiet trucks? Sounds like you've been at the elderberry wine again." Her tone is kind, but pity laces it, the same look she gave after Martha's funeral. He nods, escaping to the truck bed where his tins wait, innocent in their straw. Delusional, the word echoes as he drives home, gravel spitting under tires. The radio blares Eisenhower's voice. "The eyes of the world are upon us." Henry snaps it off, the silence accusatory. Doubt settles like dew that night. In the barn, lantern casting long shadows, he stares at the boiler, half empty. Letters pile unopened, one from Paul, forwarded from Algiers. "Hank, heard rumors of quiet trucks. If it's your doing, God bless." Rhodes hears a graveyard for noise, but the hometown barbs fester. He nearly dumps the batch, golden sludge swirling toward the drain. Fool's errand. Bees for bullets? Martha's recipe book saves him, open to a dog-eared page. Patience. Love. Honey takes time to set. He stirs instead, refining number 10 with turpentine for faster dry. The telegram arrives at midnight, hammered out urgent. Your silence arrived before the men did. Double output. Price, QM. Across the channel, the miracle unfurls in fragments. First convoys roll out July 10th, post-Cobra breakout. Strings of Dorseys snaking through Norman orchards, coated stem to stern in Reeves' compound. Fog cloaks the roads, a gift from the Gulf Stream and the engines, manifolds wrapped, chassis slathered, hum like distant hives. German listening posts, ears strained to the ether, hear only crickets and cattle lowing. No giveaway rumble. No ambush flares. Supplies reach the lines, ammo for the 29th Infantry, fuel for Patton's spearhead. Casualties drop, not by headlines, but by whispers. One less convoy lit up in the dark, 20 men spared the chatter of MP40s. Dorsey, stateside still but glued to cables, paces his office as reports trickle in. Batch 9, effective in low visibility. No residue issues. Price's addendum, men call it honey hush, morale boost. He wires Henry direct, bypassing channels. Reeves, your mix is gold. Lives in the balance, keep it coming. The message arrives at dawn, the Western Union boy banging the door like Judgment Day. Henry reads it by the kitchen window, coffee steaming untouched. Lives. The word lands heavy, chasing shadows from his doubt. Eldora mocks on. At the church social, under strung lights and the aroma of potluck pie, the jabs sharpen. B-man saving the world one dab at a time. Tommy Ellis's cousin hoots, passing the lemonade. Laughter swells, forks clinking plates. Henry sits at the edge, plate untouched, the sweetness turning to ash. He slips out early, limping through the dew-slick grass, the stars indifferent overhead. In the barn, he works till the hive's quiet, coating a fresh axle with number 11. The silence it births is deeper now, layered, like hope under ridicule. Planes drone south, bound for ports where his compound waits. Convoys glide unseen, ghosts in the green. Back home, they call it bee grease, a punchline over fences and feed sacks. Henry calls it hope, stirring through the long night, the hum of wings his only chorus. Irony coils. The louder the world jeers, the quieter his gift flies. July 1944, Normandy, France. The hedgerows rise like ancient walls, tangled veins of thorn and root that bleed the earth red. D-Day's fury has ebbed into a grinding stalemate. Mortars thump like distant heartbeats, hedgerow to hedgerow, while the 4th Armored claws forward under Patton's whip. Night falls early here, a bruised purple that swallows the orchards whole. Fog rolls in from the channel, thick as cream, carrying the salt sting of invasion and the rot of unburied dead. In this shroud, sound is king. The snap of a twig, the cough of a sentry, the telltale growl of an engine spelling doom. Sergeant Elias Keller hunkers in a forward depot near St. Lo, his face a map of grime and stubble, hands black from coaxing life into the convoy's battered hearts. He's 32, a Detroit mechanic yanked from the assembly line, now lord of the grease pit, where deuce-and-a-halfs groan under their loads of 105 shells and jerry cans. The brass demands resupply. Night runs to the lines, dodging Rommel's ears. But the roads are killers, narrow blacktop, flanked by bocage, every curve a ambush trap. Last week's convoy lost 6 trucks to a single panther's ears, engines heard from a mile, flares blooming like hellflowers, .50 cows chattering till the hedgerows wept lead. Keller's crew works by blackout lanterns, red glow ghosts painting their faces infernal. Slather it thick, boys, he growls, voice low over the murmur of idling diesels. From manifold to mudguards. No shine, no shine. The tins bear a plain stencil. Reeves' compound. Apply copiously. No origin story, just orders from Price's logistics relay. Classified. Reduces signature. Essential for op. Cobra follow-on. The stuff arrives in wooden crates, amber and viscous, smelling of wildflowers and machine shops. A whiff of home that makes the men pause, spoons dipping into rations mid-slather. Private Ramirez, a wiry kid from L.A. with fingers like a pianist's, tests the first application on his GMC's exhaust. He fires it up, throttle featherlight. The usual bellow fades to a hum, soft, insistent, like bees in a distant hive. Madre de Dios, he whispers, eyes wide in the fog. It's gone. Keller nods, clapping his shoulder. Ghost trucks. Let's roll. The convoy forms, 20 rigs in a ragged line, headlights doused, taillights shrouded, engines tick over at idle, then creep forward, tires whispering on wet asphalt. No roar, no betrayal, just the fog's hush, broken by the occasional curse as a branch snags a fender. They snake out at 200, bound for the 35th Infantry's perimeter. 10 miles of curve and shadow, German outposts prickling the dark like porcupine quills. Keller rides shotgun in the lead deuce, map glow faint under his palm, Corporal O'Malley at the wheel. The air tastes of diesel and damp earth, the compound's residue slick on the dash. O'Malley eases the throttle, the engine responds with a murmur, lost in the night's breath. Feels wrong, he mutters, knuckles white, like we're rolling on prayers. Keller scans the black, ears straining. Nothing. No echo off the stone walls, no ripple through the mist. The convoy glides, a serpent of steel and shadow, loads shifting soft in the beds. 3 miles in, the first test, a listening post, SS ears tuned to the ether. Private Lang, holed up in a ruined farmhouse with a field phone and a Mauser, perks at the rumor of movement. He steps out, fog beating his helmet, cupping hands to the wind. Crickets. A cow's distant low, the patter of rain on leaves. No rumble. No giveaway. He shrugs, lighting a Gaulois, the match flare dying quick. The convoy slips past, 200 yards off, invisible as sin. Keller exhales slow. Keep it sweet, he radios back, voice a thread. We're bees tonight. Back in Iowa, Henry stirs number 12 under a harvest moon, the barn's rafters silvered through the vents. The telegrams have thickened. Batch 11 deployed. Efficacy 85%. Urgent resupply. Dorsey's personal note, smudged carbon. Reeves, your hush is saving necks. Convoy's whole. Godspeed. Pride swells, fragile as new calm, but Eldora's barbs linger. At the feed store, Gustafson waves a crumpled V-mail. Heard your goo made it to France. Trucks quiet as mice, or just sticky as lies. Laughter again, the kind that curdles milk. Henry loads his sacks in silence, the limp of punctuation. Home, he writes Paul. If the roads grow quiet, think of the hives. Bees don't announce, they arrive. He seals it, stamps it, drops it at the post with a prayer. Normandy, mile 7. The fog thickens, a living thing that muffles even footsteps. The convoy crests a rise, orchard shadows clawing the flanks. O'Malley downshifts, the gears mesh with a sigh, the compound sealing the wine. But fate tests, a pothole, cratered by last week's barrage, swallows a wheel. The deuce lurches, axle grinding, brief, sharp, a needle in the hush. From the tree line, 300 yards starboard, a Kraut patrol stirs, boots crunch, a whisper in guttural tones. Halt, we're da. Flashlight beams stab the mist, jittery. Keller's heart hammers. Cut it, he hisses. O'Malley kills the engine. Silence crashes in, profound. The convoy freezes, 20 hulks, engines cold, drivers holding breath like grenades. The beams sweep, inches from fenders, catching dew on leaves. The German coughs, wet and phlegmy. Knits. Wind. Footsteps fade, the patrol melting back. Keller waits 10 counts, 20. Rolls slow. Engines cough to life, one by one staggered, each a muffled bee sting blending into the fog. They press on, the near miss a ghost in the glass. Dawn grays the sky as they reach the lines, the 35th's foxholes yawning like mouths. Unload under canvas, shells thumping into stacks, fuel gurgling into bladders. No losses, no tracers. The GIs cluster, wide-eyed. Holy Christ, Sarge, how'd you ghost sin? One asks, a buck private from Brooklyn, spooning cold sea rats. Keller jerks a thumb at the tins. B-man's brew, quieter than your Maz slippers. Laughter, ragged but real, cuts the chill. Reports wire back, convoy intact, compound pivotal, request 500 gallons. Word reaches Paul Reeves that week, humping crates in the 101st supply train. He's 34, Henry's shadow, taller, unscarred, but with the same quiet eyes. His rig, a battered Mac-coated stem to stern, leads the next run, seen to fillets, fog-choked hell under Montgomery's push. Paul's letter, scribbled in a ditch, Hank engines here's ghosts now. You're spit, they say. Saved my bacon last night, Jerry ears missed us by a hair, made laugh, keep the hives humming. He seals it, tucks it with a photo. Henry and Martha, young, arms linked by a hive. The run goes pear-shaped at midnight. Flak shreds the overcast, V1s wailing overhead like damned souls. Paul's convoy, 15 trucks, ammo-heavy, threads a defile near Argenton, bocage pressing close. Engines hum, compound sheathed, but a tail-end straggler clips a mine wire. Boom, fireball blooms, secondary blasts rippling the line. Shrapnel sings, a truck flips, screams cut the fog. Paul brakes hard, his Mac slews, axle biting dirt. Bail out. Form up, he bellows, diving for cover as rounds crackle from the ridge. Germans swarm, panzers grinding forward, half-tracks sputtering MG fire. Paul's pinned cab hold, the hum now a roar in his ears. But the lead rigs, silent. They peel off-road, engines whispering through the orchard, circling wide. Supplies dump at a rally point, then ghost back, unseen, unheard. Paul scrambles to a ditch, mud caking his grin. A GI hauls him up. "Your brother's stuff, Mac, turned us to smoke." By false dawn, the convoy reforms -3, but Paul lives. Breath ragged, uniform torn, but whole. Iowa receives the letter weeks later, postmarked APO 59. "Hank, you saved me with bee spit. Drove through hell quiet as church. Owe you a hive, Paul." Henry reads it by lantern, tears carving tracks in the wax dust on his cheeks. The barn smells of fresh batch of 13 refined for rain, honey's drip sinking with his pulse. Saved him. The word echoes, chasing the mocks away. Planes thunder over, bound east with crates in their bellies. Convoys hum through Europe. Fog their ally, silence their shield. Thousands spared. Not in tallies but in breaths drawn unmolested, in dawns greeted whole. In St. Lo, Keller pens his own missive on pilfered stationery. "Reeves, your juice saved more men than bullets ever could. Hedgerows hear nothing now. Whiskey, when you limp east." He folds it, drops it in the pouch. The war grinds on, loud and merciless, but in its veins Henry's whisper flows, one silent mile at a time. His silence had spoken louder than war ever could. August 1945. The war's echo fades like a spent shell casing rolling to silence. In Eldora, Iowa, the field surrendered a harvest gold, combines rumbling through stubble like victorious tanks. VJ Day banners limp from lampposts, faded by sun and rain, while the town square hosts its first unrationed picnic. Ham sandwiches thick as hope, lemonade tart with freedom. Radios croon, white Christmas in summer heat, a victory lap for the living. Henry Wallace Reeves hears none of it. He limps through his chores, the barn his anchor, hives humming a requiem for the man he's become. The telegram stopped in April, sharp as a cut line. Final shipment acknowledged. Stand down, Europe secured. No flourish, no medal pinned to his overalls. Just the abrupt hush of bureaucracy. Crates returned stamped surplus, dispose. Henry stacks them in the loft, tins of Na. 14 gathering dust beside rusted sickles, the compound congealing into amber ghosts. He tries not to mind. Paul came home in June, thinner, eyes haunted by hedgerows he won't name, clapping Henry's shoulder with a grin that doesn't reach. "Bee spit worked wonders, Hank. Owe you my hide." They sit on the porch that night, passing a jar of fresh honey, the air sweet with phlox and pipe smoke. Paul talks of silent miles, fog-wrapped runs where death passed deaf. Henry nods, stirring his spoon, the sweetness pooling unanswered. Saved you, he thinks, but says nothing. Words would crack the quiet they've both earned. Eldora rebuilds in fits, sons returning to furrows, wives mending nets into curtains. The mocks evolve, softening to shrugs. At the co-op, Gustafson grunts over seed corn. "Heard your grease the wheels over there," quiet-like. No laugh this time, just a nod that tastes of half apology. Widow Hargrove leaves a pie on the step, apple laced with cinnamon from her victory garden, whispering as she goes, "Martha'd be proud, Henry." Sweet work. He eats it alone, crust flaking like old paint, the filling a burst of what was. Letters trickle, Keller's, from a VA hospital in Milwaukee, scrawled shaky. "Reeves, your hush haunts the good dreams. Bullets fly loud, you gave us night." Dorsey's, typed on War Department letterhead, classified contribution noted. Grateful. Ellen Price's, perfumed faint with lavender. "The quiet you sent saved my brother." Women in logistics owe you jars eternal. But gratitude is a fragile comb, prone to collapse. By fall, the hives demand full tending. Winter stores laid against the lean, and Henry pours himself into them, back bent, leg throbbing like a barometer of loss. The compound? Forgotten in the loft, a footnote in ledgers gathering mold in Washington vaults. He dreams of it sometimes. Engines humming through mist, Paul's truck vanishing into green, the fog swallowing screams unborn. Wakes to the drip of condensation from the rafters, honey's slow tear mirroring his own. Nature never wastes, Martha's voice soothes, but waste feels vast now. The war's roar receding, leaving him adrift in the pause. Years fold like bellows. 1946 brings hybrid corn and a new mayor. Harlan retired to rocking chair pontification. Henry turns 41, the limp a constant companion, his beard full silver. Paul marries a nurse from Des Moines, settles on a plot 10 miles east, their letters brisk with baby news and tractor woes. "Need your fix for this squealer, Hank?" Paul teases once, but Henry waves it off. The compound stays shelved, a relic like the Kaiser helmet Paul brought home, dented and displayed on the mantel. Eldora grows. A drive-in opens, showing the best years of our lives where veterans limp on silver screens. Henry goes once, alone, the popcorn's butter-salt tang turning sour at the sight of Dana Andrews' haunted gaze. Quiet heroes, the tagline promises. He leaves at intermission, the Iowa night cool against his cheeks. By 1950, the bees thrive. 50 hives strong, honey jars stacking the pantry like cordwood. But the world spins louder. Korea flares, televisions flicker in windows, Elvis hips the airwaves. Henry's isolation deepens, a voluntary siege. He tends the farm, trades at market, nods to passers-by. The barn, once alchemist's den, reverts to storage. Tools hung straight, the workbench scarred but idle. Dreams persist, though, convoys gliding silent, a brother's grin through fog. He writes none of it down, the notebook from 44 yellowed and lost in a drawer. Whispers don't warrant ink, he tells himself, stirring mash for the smoker. The archivist finds it in 57, a bespectacled civil servant named Harlan, ironies nod to the old mayor, sifting declassified crates in the bowels of the National Archives. He's hunting ordnance footnotes for a monograph on logistics oddities. Kapok life vests, chocolate-dipped spam. The folder's innocuous, Reeves compound field tests, ETO 1944. Yellowed memos spill out, Dorsey's trials, Price's efficacy reports, Keller's scrawled endorsements. Audible suppression, 72% at 500 meters. Casualties averted, ST 2300. A grainy photo, a deuce and a half chassis gleaming amber under blackout lamps, GIs with tins like talismans. Harlan pauses, pipe unlit, tracing the Iowa return address. Beekeeper, he cross-references, requisitions for honey, then this, propolis wax emulsion. Civilian source, H.W. Reeves, Eldora. Curiosity compels a letter, typed on onion skin. Mr. Reeves, query wartime contribution. Archives seek context. It arrives in spring, the envelope stiff against Henry's palm. He reads it by the kitchen window, bees droning outside like applause. Contribution. The word stirs silt from the depths, pride ache the loft's dusty tins. He pens back, pencil deliberate, just grease for quiet work. Bees taught it, no more to tell. But Harlan persists, visits in July. A slight man in seersucker, notebook in hand. They sit on the porch, iced tea sweating rings on the rail. Henry talks haltingly, the axles hush, the first crate, Paul's survival. Harlan scribbles, eyes alight. Thousands lived because of this, why no record? Quiet, don't shout, Henry replies, gaze on the hives. War wanted thunder, I gave whisper. Harlan leaves with the notebook, a tin of number 14, and a promise. Your story, sir. In the stacks, at least. It appears in 59, a footnote in Logistics of Liberation, dry as dust. Reeves compound, ad hoc acoustic dampener, derived from apian byproducts. Impact, marginal but measurable. Marginal. Henry chuckles when Paul reads it aloud, the word a balm and a barb. They toast with honey whiskey, the burn sweet on the tongue. Time's scythe swings steady. 1962, Kennedy's steel jaw on TV, Cuba's shadow long. Henry's 56, the limp a drag chain, arthritis gnawing his knuckles like rust. The hives dwindle, 40 now, then 30, as strength ebbs. Paul helps Summers, his kids wide-eyed at the bees' ballet. Grandpa's magic goo? Little Ellie asks, dipping a finger in a jar. Henry smiles, wiping it clean. Just quiet, Sprout, for when the world's too loud. He tells her fragments, silent trucks, fog friends, a war won in murmurs. She listens, rapt, twirling honey strands like gold thread. Winter 68 claims him, pneumonia's old thief returning like a grudge. The doctor comes at dawn, stethoscope cold on his chest. Martha's shadow, Henry rasps, eyes on the ceiling knots. Paul holds his hand, the room thick with liniment and regret. No speeches, no regrets voiced, just the hive's distant hum through the frost-laced window, a farewell chorus. He slips quiet at noon, breath easing into the pause he's always chased. Eldora buries him beside Martha under a modest stone. Henry W. Reeves, 1906-1968. Beekeeper. Father. Builder. No mention of compounds or convoys. The service is small. Paul, the kids, Widow Hargrove with her kerchief, Gustafson hat in hand. Rain patters the canvas, soft as apology. The whisper lingers, though, stubborn as propolis. Harlan's monograph circulates in libraries, a cult text for historians chasing the unglamorous gears. In 72, a Vietnam vet, Keller's nephew by chance, stumbles on it, wiring Paul. Uncle said the bee-man's real, honored. Jars appear on the grave. First one, anonymous, honey amber and fresh. Then two, left at dawn with notes, for the hush that saved my pa. Quiet thanks from a silent run. Strangers, mostly. Logistics clerks, archivists, a French liaison with broken English, and a tin of Normandy wildflower honey. Paul tends them, pouring libations into the earth, the sweetness seeping deep. By 1980, declassification cracks wider. A PBS special, Forgotten Forges, devotes 10 minutes. Grainy reenactments of fog-bound trucks, and actor Henry stirring pots in a sunlit barn.